Hello, everybody. It's Friday. That means it's time for another topic of the week. So, first things first, last week's topic on simple versus complex rules. A lot of thoughts that were shared in the comments, a lot of good discussion about this one. Like really, really deep discussions in the comments that gave me a lot of stuff to think about. And that's always why I really value this. I read every comment and think deeply about them, and truly that is the best part of this, is that interchange. And what I think it came to is there, sort of as I suspected, there was an alignment to those people who self-identify as Johnnies or who find value in sort of the ability to do things like tweak lists or get at minutia or do that kind of planning, where some part of the enjoyment of the game comes outside of the game. In that way, doing those things, they value the complexity because it gives them something meat to dig into. It's an interesting note that wargaming is a more unique hobby if compared to like CCGs or even RPGs, where you can do so much of it without playing, right? Like you can sit around and make D&D characters or read spells or stuff, but there's a limit to that. Eventually, you want to play the character, but with wargaming, you can scheme armies, buy armies, paint armies, and maybe play only 1 or 2 games a year and still feel like you're an active gamer. So it's a very as I've mentioned many times, it's a big iceberg hobby, and so there's all sorts of things hidden under the surface that people find value in, and I think that complexity keeps there's lots of different things you could be doing. As I said, you could be valuing painting or collecting or whatever, but if you value list building, sort of investigating, different weird combinations or strategies, then complexity has a direct sort of psychological value to you. And that's what I think a lot of people ended up expressing. Now, if you're someone who that doesn't appeal to you, of which I will openly admit I am in that camp, I like to spend about 5 minutes thinking about a list before I play it. I buy the models in an army that I think look cool, or that I'll enjoy painting. Then there's less value there, right? So, so I think that's interesting. The overall, I think what it says is that a game that provides an amount of modularity that allows for at least sort of almost 2 distinct ways to play. I don't mean settings like campaign worlds. I mean settings like settings of complexity. Seems to be the happy middle ground. And so in that, I think 40K hit exactly the right note. Where for the most part, I can play with my battle points and other people can get into the deep points, and we can both have our own fun, and every so often we might have to swap over to the other side, but for the most part, we get to live in our worlds and be happy with it. So, anyway, check that out. The videos are linked below as well. Special shout out to Hooves of Doom, who had a nice little response that actually walked through the history of Warhammer, both fantasy and 40K, talking about the rise and fall of simplicity and complexity, which is a great topic. As we've gone through many editions of these games, 9 and 8 effectively, and he points out that these things tend to come in waves, right, where they sort of build and then fall back, and it's sort of an interesting treadmill we're all on that he points to. So check out that video; it's really good. It'll be linked in last week's video, which is of course linked down below. All right, that's a long preamble, but let's get to this week's topic. So during the show this week, we talked a lot about the General's Handbook 2, but of course it's coming soon, and that's going to be this week's topic. What are you hoping for out of the General's Handbook 2? Now that we have the specific elements, that we know there's new allegiance abilities, that we know there's new rules of one, that we know there's rules for realms and siege warfare, what of those elements that have been spoiled are you most excited for, and what are you hoping to see? Now, we talked a lot about it on the show, so I'm not going to go into more than what I said there. I talked about a lot of things that I would like to see. I already know I'm going to get something I love when they spoiled that we're getting the Slaaneshi Host's allegiance ability. Heck yeah, go Slanesh. That's a great surprise for me. I did not expect to receive anything Slanesh oriented for, probably 9 months, a year, whenever they do the big Slanesh release, which I suspect will be either at the very end of this year or beginning of next. What a wonderful summertime present for me to crack those out and give them a shot with some new abilities. So I'm looking forward to that. But what are you looking forward to? Is there something they've spoiled that you are? Are you maybe a Seraphon player and you've been chomping and envious of those other Order players and Stormcast people that do have Allegiance abilities and stuff like that? Or maybe you've been really wanting to do some Siege or something like that. Maybe you're excited for the multiplayer. I know I am. If you go back many weeks, you're not going to do it, but if you go back several weeks on the show, I commented when we heard that Path to Glory was being pulled out. I said I really, really hope that one of the things they expand is the multiplayer rules. And ta-da! So I'm thrilled about that because my normal games are always multiplayer. I play 5 times as many 3 and 4 player games as I do 2 player games. So there you go. That's this week's topic. What do you want to see of what's been spoiled? What are you hoping for? What are your fears? Are there rules of one or something like that you don't want to see that you think could be bad? Share that. Drop it down in the comments, or if you want to make a response video, share that, and I'll link that down below, so you can always come back to this video and watch all of those. But, as always, appreciate it, look forward to the discussion, and we'll see you next time.